here.
Helden sterben nicht.
Personne.
Ejecting.
Oh, excuse me.
Rocket barrage.
Play of the game.
Helden sterben nicht.
Double, triple kill. Welcome to Oasis. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
I'll be watching over you. Ich bin da. You seem well, Genji.
I am a different man now. I am home.
System check initiated.
Take
Green
two and
across
call
the
me in the
board.
morning.
I'm ready for action.
Piece of cake. Questionable judgment. The doctor is in.
I am
5, 4, 3, 2,
Точно.
1. Round 1.
Wehrmacht
Capture the
engaged.
objective.
Contact.
Get them off me. Damage amplified. Mercy in Bereitschaftsdienst. Thank you. Your support has arrived. I could use some assistance.
The objective is now.
Let me get you patched up.
Getting here.
Quick about it.
My ultimate is charging.
Correct choice.
Healing stream engaged. Help me!
I require you.
I've got you. Die Wunder der modernen Medizin. I am ready to revive you. You should be at peak performance level. Heroes never die. I could use some
Nano boost administered.
healing stream engaged.
Barrage ready.
Let's get you back out there.
My ultimate is ready.
Rocket barrage.
Good as new. I'm taking care of you.
ازيك؟ عامل ايه؟
Hello there.
ازيك؟
Let me get you patched up.
Setting up freeze! Don't move!
Attack the objective.
Damage amplified. I could use some assistance.
Behind you.
Огонь по готовности.
Healing stream engaged.
I remember this feeling.
Thanks.
I've got you in my sights.
Back at you.
وديهم قوتك.
Get out of my way. Grows strong.
Heroes never die.
I'm on the objective!
You should be at peak performance level. I'm taking care of you.
My ultimate is
Ich bin da. I could use some assistance.
This will protect
You needed a doctor?
ultimate almost ready.
I'm with you.
Is almost ready.
Don't freeze!
Don't move. Let me get you patched up.
Behind you.
behind you.
Damage boost
Defend the
engaged.
objective. Barrier
Stay out of my way. Incoming.
Best round. 1. Score 1-0.
Arigato.
Reaper here.
Let's gather some valuable data on this mission. So mean, honestly.
Let's get you back out there.
Ouch! Are you okay?
5,
Hello.
Questionable judgment.
1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Damage amplified. Healing stream engaged.
ازيك؟
The objective is now
A speedy recovery.
A speedy recovery.
Let me get you patched up. Damage boost engaged. A clean bill of health.
I've reached the objective. Let's coordinate our efforts.
Help me!
Die Wunder der modernen Medizin. Ich kümmere mich um dich. My ultimate is ready. Where does it end?
Lock it off.
Damage increase. Let's get you back out there. Heroes never die.
Take the objective. Take the objective.
Much better. I need healing.
Diva reporting in.
Taking the pause. Thank you.
Thank you. Mounting power to forward shield. I'm gonna shoot you down. Get them off me.
I'm even stronger.
Behind you. Take cover. Nerf this. Game on.
The wonders of modern medicine. My ultimate is charging.
Round 2. Loss. Score 1-1.
Farah reporting.
Hello there.
Think you can keep up with me?
You needed a doctor?
Alan. 5, 4, 3, 1. Round 3. Capture
Damage
the objective.
increase. Right beside you. Did someone call a doctor?
I'm being attacked!
Not good. Schaden verstärkt.
Now see what I can do.
Let's get you back out there.
My ultimate is now.
Take the objective.
You needed a doctor?
My ultimate is charging.
Ich kümmere mich um dich. Nimm.
Extend the objective.
You have my thanks.
Damage amplified.
Ready to start a blizzard.
My ultimate is charging.
Healing stream engaged. Your support has arrived. Damage increased.
Freeze!
Let's get you that out there. Enemy here.
My ultimate.
Heroes never die.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Let me get you patched up.
Fire at will.
You should be at peak performance level.
I'm even stronger.
Thank you.
Where is
Defend the objective.
我更厉害了。
Mercy in Bereitschaftsdienst.
My
Damage
ultimate is
amplified.
charging.
I'm being attacked.
Lights out.
Justice.
Heroes never die.
Never stop now.
You needed a doctor?
I'm on fire.
Round 3, 1. Score 2-1.
I will break you.
Divas reporting in.
Verstanden.
Okay.
Join them. 5,
Come on, let's bring it together.
3, 2, 1. Round 4. Capture the objective. The objective is
Convert on the objective.
Oh, this is my jam.
anyone want to join?
My ultimate is ready.
I have ult.
Yeah, time to heal up.
My ultimate is charging.
My ultimate is ready.
My ultimate is charging.
My ultimate is charging.
Got you in my sights.
Nano boost administered.
I am unstoppable. My ultimate is almost ready.
Push on.
Yeah, I know.
Pump up the volume.
Walk it off.
Get back. Let's drop the beat. Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Ultimate is all fire.
I am on fire.
You have my thanks.
Hello.
Hello.
Go time. This is gonna make you feel better. Pump up the volume.
My ultimate is charging.
Yeah, let's move it, people. Oh, hey, hey. Yeah, time to heal up. Get back.
My ultimate is charging.
Defend the objective. Fire!
I'm feeling unstoppable.
You feel that?
Overtime.
Mecha activated.
Packed up. You hear that? Oh, let's break it. Damn!
You're powered up. Get in there.
Oh, there's no stopping me now.
Victory. Play of the game.
Will. Justice. From above.
Quadruple kill.
Just win.
Traveling to Route 66. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Take a move back. Grab one with broken name.
Come on, let's bring it together.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink the coffee. Always tasted like
I'll be
boiled
watching
dirt.
over you. Where does it hurt?
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
You seem well, Genji.
I am a different man now. I am whole.
You can't play Mercy, can you go Anna then?
I live for a good fight.
I'm taking care of you.
Dude, goes in.
5, 4,
Let's try this out.
2, 1.
Goes in.
Attack commences. Escort the payload.
Moving to Zenyatta.
Let's get you back out there. Get them off me! You should be at peak performance levels.
And that's out west.
Need a doctor? I'm here!
That's teamwork.
Let's get you back out there. I'm under attack! Damage increased! I could use some assistance. You need a doctor?
McCree low. McCree and
Has reached the checkpoint.
Did they just leave now?
Let me get you.
I feel bad, man. No, it's not. It's been more than a minute. Easy win, guys. I'm going back to the water.
Let's get you back out there.
I feel it's okay.
You should be at peak performance levels.
Yes!
Helden sterben nicht. Where does it hurt?
Weapons. Sniper, be careful.
I'm gonna sit.
You're gonna switch?
I'm gonna sit.
Greetings. Use caution. Enemy turret neutralized.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Greetings.
Payload secure. Move out!
Oh, guys, be careful. You might be kicked for being AFK.
Your support has arrived.
Damn.
The payload is approaching its destination.
That's teamwork.
Let me get
Complete. Score 3-0. Switching sides. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero. Play of the game.
What the fuck?
Ooh!
So what the fuck do you mean we don't get no SR?
Just check. Check how much you got.
The fuck? इसको खत्म होने दे, I wanna check on it. उससे ऊपर जाती है, नीचे जाती है, let me check. I got 4 points.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
True self is without form.
Come on, let's bring it
Attackers
together.
incoming in 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah!
Would have been better to let this all go.
1. Attackers incoming.
Let's get you
Stop
healed up.
the payload.
Here, let's pick it up.
Behind you!
Now that's more like it. Cardio medic. Push on. That's what I'm talking And the beat goes on.
My ultimate is fully
The
charged.
payload has reached the checkpoint.
Behind you!
Back in the mix.
Helden sterben nicht.
Let's group up here.
Walk it off.
I've got you in true self is without form.
Let's drop the beat.
Justice reigns from above.
Thank you.
Got it. Ready
The
for
payload has reached the checkpoint.
There is chaos.
Nerf this. Now show them. Mounting power to forward shield.
Double kill.
Repetition is the paramount mastery.
Complete. Score 0-3. Switching sides. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
With every death comes honor. With honor, redemption.
I never thought I'd see this place again.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
A lot of memories of this place. They weren't all bad. Overwatch.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Escort the payload.
My arrow finds its mark.
Time to raise my APM.
See that which is unseen. I am healed.
Helden sterben nicht.
I will not be defeated so easily.
I'm coming for you all.
Moving the payload.
I've got you in my sights. Yuga wagateki wo kurau! The dragon is sated. Simple.
Double. Warmed up. Get down. Escort to the
Justice reigns from above.
I'm on fire. Marked.
Time to raise my APM.
Scatter.
ground surge is ready.
My ultimate is charging.
Incoming!
I'm gonna have to shoot you down.
I will not be defeated so easily. Marked by the dragon.
Pushing forward.
I will not be defeated so easily.
Justice reigns from above.
See through the dragon's eyes.
Touch your visor activated.
Fire at will. In all systems checked out. Now show them.
Marked.
Why are we stopped? Get the lead out and move this payload.
I will not be defeated so easily. Yuga wagateki wo kurau!
I am moving the payload. Fall in with me.
Marked by the dragon.
Your time's run out.
I must reclaim my honor.
Healing enough.
Fire at will.
See through the dragon's eyes. Again.
60 seconds remaining.
Primary objective. Move the payload.
Marked by the dragon. There is nowhere to hide.
Seconds remaining.
Activating self-destruct sequence.
I am not deterred. Yuga wagateki wo kurau!
10 seconds remaining.
We're running out of time. Everyone, attack.
Taken the pain.
Helden sterben nicht. Fire at will.
Everyone heal up.
Justice reigns from above.
Final score. 1-3. Defeat. Play of the game.
ये बेकार है यार, ये रैंक रीच करने के बाद छोड़ देती है गेम खेलना। भैंचो चूतिया है यार, इसको क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, क्या करना है कुछ में। भैंचो ये होती है लाइफ, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा। चूतिया साला, कुछ काम धाम नहीं है, बस बैठा हुआ भैंचो सुबह शाम चूतियों की तरह गेम खेलेगा। उसके बाद फिर कब जब लगा कि अब यार अब बोर हो रहे हैं यार, अब स्किल लेवल पे नहीं मिल रहा है यार, अभी ना बहुत हो गया है, अब भी खेलना चाहिए ना, तो भैंचो चूतियों की तरह गेम छोड़ देंगे। उसके बाद फिर वापस आके जो भी मन में आया पिक कर लेंगे। और जब कोई बोलेगा कि भाई चेंज कर लो यार, हमें तो सीरियसली खेलने दो, हमारा टाइम नहीं है और काम भी करते हैं, तो ये चूतियों की तरफ मुंह बंद करके बैठे रहेंगे, जैसे मुट्ठी मार रहे हैं बेंचों बैठ के। अबे जाओ ना यार, बेंचों पता नहीं कैसे डायमंड में भी ऐसी चूती हैं। सच में यार क्या चूतियाँ अपना। सेम चीज़ हो जाती है, क्या फ़ायदा स्टैनफोर्ड में पढ़ने का जब बेंचों
Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
जो मन में कर रहा है यार, कौन उखाड़ रहा है, कौन रोक रहा है, ऑनलाइन है, इसको पड़ी है यार। रिक एंड मॉर्टी देखो यार, अच्छा है।
With every death comes honor. With honor, redemption.
I will reclaim my master's armor!
Check this out!
There's nothing I haven't seen before. Stick together. We will complete our mission.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
I am ready to roll. Audio medic.
Try not to get yourselves killed out there.
Group up with me.
1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
I have found the enemy! Come and face me!
Get me.
Enemy turret sighted! Barrier is failing!
See that which is
Check! Enemy turret ahead!
Get me like this!
Watch out for that turret!
See, objective is mine.
I claim this objective. Stand with me.
Helden sterben nicht.
Oh, let's break it! Damn!
I claim this objective.
Double. Objective A captured. Escort the payload.
My position.
Escorting the payload.
My ultimate is ready. Group up with me.
रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करना आता है यार किसी चीज़।
Group up at my position.
रिस्पेक्ट करेंगे ना साले, तभी।
Nano bolt is ready to deploy.
Art of deception.
पता चल जाती है, बाकी कामों में भी यही करेंगे।
Enemy contact!
ये कुछ नहीं होता यार, होमवर्क ही तो है, कुछ नहीं होता यार, असाइनमेंट ही तो है, कुछ नहीं होता यार, प्रोग्राम ही तो है, कुछ नहीं होता यार, एक प्रोजेक्ट ही तो है, पैसे होता है यार, पैसे तो मिलते हैं, कुछ नहीं होता, इसमें तो मिलता है, कुछ नहीं होता यार, कुछ नहीं होता यार, पैसे
Drop the beat!
यही होती है, मैंने कहा वो क्या ही कुछ नहीं होता यार, ये करो
Start over at the beginning.
टेंशन की बात नहीं है यार, रिस्पेक्ट की बात है, तो रिस्पेक्ट देनी चाहिए।
Simple geometry.
My ultimate is ready.
My ultimate is almost ready. See through the dragon's eyes.
Tactical visor activated.
Yuga Wagateki wo kurau!
Helden sterben nicht. Fire at will.
On the beat. Heal up. Double time.
Delivery on the way. Move up at my position.
A minor setback. See through the dragon's eyes.
क्रिस्टोफर नोलन क्यों इतना अच्छा है? क्रिस्टोफर नोलन इज्जत देता है कैमरा वर्क को। क्रिस्टोफर नोलन डायरेक्टर है, इज्जत देता है वो
My ultimate is ready. Join.
Tactical visor ready for deployment. Tactical visor activated.
Огонь по готовности.
Wagateki wo kurau!
Oh, let's break it.
Enemy contact. Nano boost administered.
Damn.
My warrior spirit.
You need to learn to focus.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Come out and
Good, привет.
See through the dragon's eyes.
we have this payload delivered already.
Walk it off.
Lights out.
Oh, my damn.
Fire at will.
Yuga Wagateki wo kurau!
I'm just kidding.
Hello. Привет.
The payload is approaching its destination.
Tactical visor activated.
Helden sterben nicht.
Mecha active.
Enemy.
Oh, let's break it. Turn.
Complete. Score 3-0. Switching sides.
पढ़ना चाहता है।
Never surrender.
Prepare your defenses.
उस टॉपिक को
Select your hero.
होता है, वो इंटरेस्ट नहीं आता है। इंटरेस्ट तो आता ही नहीं कुछ चीज़ नहीं करने में जिसमें मेहनत करनी है, क्योंकि वो बंदा उस क्राफ्ट को स्किल को लर्न करने में रिस्पेक्ट देता है उसका चीज़ की, तभी उस चीज़ को लर्न करता है। कारपेंटर इतना अच्छा कारपेंटर कैसे बनता है? उस रिस्पेक्ट करता है कारपेंट्री को और स्किल इनहेंस करता रहता है, रिस्पेक्ट दे दे के करना है। ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है बेंचो, रातों भर बैठे हमारे पापा कारपेंट्री करते थे, हम करने लग गए।
Redemption.
कर लो फिर क्या ही करोगे?
Too much blood was spilled in my country during the war.
मैं रिसर्च पेपर क्यों लिखूं? कंप्यूटर विजन को रिस्पेक्ट करता हूँ मुझे देखना है कि विजन का कितना काम है यार लाइक अंधे लोगों को देखना लोग नहीं गुजरना पड़ता है वो मुझे समझ में आता है बुरा लगता है I can empathize with them
I'm not your father.
I love computer vision
I grow tired of waiting.
I'm not your father. I'm not your father.
Marked by the dragon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
See that which is unseen. Is that the best you can do?
I salute you.
My arrow finds its mark. My ultimate is almost ready.
Heal up here.
Yuga wagateki wo kurau! The dragon is sated. Blocked by the dragon.
Time to read my APM. My ultimate is charging.
See through the dragon's eyes.
टाइम में पहले प्लैटिनम कैसे आया?
My aim is true.
My ultimate is ready. Let's do this.
I am ready to revive you.
Team, heal up here.
See that which is unseen.
Tactical visor ready.
Drop the beat.
Taking the objective. Stop that. See through the dragon's eyes.
Get over here and heal up. Activate.
Art of deception.
Time to read my APM.
My aim is true.
Someone's Tracer maybe. Someone's behind us or above us.
Okay.
My power grows stronger.
Mercy.
See through the dragon's eyes.
Healing boom.
Fire at will.
60 seconds remaining.
Marked by the dragon.
Tracer behind you guys.
Helden sterben nicht.
Oh shit.
Everyone.
Yuga wagate.
Heroes never die.
Mounting power to forward.
30 seconds remaining.
No. Game on.
Ultimate is ready.
Take cover.
Yuga wagateki wo kurau! By the dragon.
10 seconds.
Objective is under attack. Get on it.
Drop the beat.
Tactical visor activated.
Push them back.
myself.
They're taking the objective. Concentrate our defenses.
Marked by the dragon.
Oh, nice! Wow! What a C9!
Final score 3-0. Victory! Play of the game.
Fire at will!
Double, triple kill.
पता नहीं बहनचोद क्यों नहीं मिल रहा है ये क्या चाहिए
actually improve Google. Without even explaining why you were wrong. So, I mean, I guess the obvious question is, if you have a company as big as Google is and as powerful as Google is.
I read that you said you felt misrepresented. How do you feel misrepresented?
A lot of what the media has been saying is that I'm
Traveling to Nepal. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Justice will be done.
This place makes me sick. Hi.
Hey. Hello. Howdy. Hey.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture objective. The objective is
more to my tail. Hey. My ultimate is ready. Come out and face me. Come on down.
Anyone else want some? I'm taking you back.
I will not give up the fight.
Heroes never die. For a price.
Don't worry, my friend. I am your shield. That's the best you can do. I've got you in my sights.
Fusing no Helden sterben nicht.
Can you get a fucking race?
Drop the beat.
Double, triple kill.
I am on fire! Come here and get burned.
Howdy.
My ultimate is charging. Oh, yeah!
Your support has arrived.
This is gonna make you feel better.
Take the objective! Join me in glory! Come on and face me!
Helden sterben nicht.
Let's drop the beat.
Rest.
Sit
What the fuck was I?
The enemy is at our doorstep! Drive him!
Rest, you motherfucker!
Bye. No rest.
Wait for me!
Man, what's that?
Heroes never die. Focus.
Up the tempo.
Helden sterben nicht.
Best round 1. Score 1-0.
We shall prove ourselves in glorious combat!
Am I ready? 99 pace, 99 dribbling, 99 making this look good.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
I'm not as young as he used Come out and face me! Bring it on! I live for this! Failure won't hold forever!
The objective is now
I'm on the objective.
Ever get that feeling, deja vu?
I've got you in my sights. I feel like a new man.
Yeah, time to heal up.
Don't worry, my friend. I have your shield. I have captured the objective. Try and stop.
Step right up.
Come out and face me! I've got you in my sights.
Helden sterben nicht.
This is not over. Let's fight!
Zenyatta is here.
We must focus.
Get behind
the objective.
Is that all? Hammer down!
Drop the beat!
Heroes never die.
What?
I feel sad in the morning.
Under attack.
Robot with me.
Round 2, loss. Score 1-1.
Together we are strong.
I've not returned here for many years. I wonder if my brothers insist.
Lucio, checking in the game.
I ain't much for waiting around.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 3. Capture the objective.
Oh, yeah!
Enemy team.
Give me your best shot.
Watch your back.
I'm taking the objective. Converge on me.
Double kill.
You have my thanks. My ultimate is charged.
Get in there.
I'll give it almost ready.
Your best shot.
Back.
Barriers on.
Back area. Bye.
Barriers on. Огонь по готовности.
Double
Helden sterben nicht. will lead us to victory. Ready for battle.
My ultimate is ready. Let's do this.
Go.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Let's break it! Огонь по готовности! Helden sterben nicht! Get in there!
Round 3, 1.
I do not trust these onyx, and I do not like this place.
Soldier 76, reporting for duty. Try not to get yourselves killed out there.
Acknowledged. Understood. Thanks.
5, 4, 3, 2,
All systems
1. Round 4. Capture the objective.
I hear you.
barriers on you. I break. I am still
Nothing's gonna stop.
acknowledged.
You like shooting the legs. You, I'll make an exception.
Get in there. Give me your best shot. Justice rains from above. Огонь по готовности. Heroes never die. You're covered.
Party on the objective. Who's in?
Converge on the objective.
Give me your best shot.
Activate.
Barriers on you. Огонь по готовности. Огонь по готовности. Heroes never die. Get in there. Helden sterben nicht. My ultimate is incoming. Take the face. Justice reigns from above. Take the face.
Smoke him out.
My will is unbroken.
My ultimate is ready. Let's do
Understood. Огонь по готовности! Personne n'échappe.
Gonna make you feel better.
Get in there! Behind you! Behind you! Ready for battle!
Victory! Play of the game.
It's hand.
Oh, let's break it! Damn!
Hello. So, reached out to me and put us together, and so I'm going to talk to an employee who wishes to remain anonymous for reasons that I think are obvious. And James, last week, put his hand in a blender by circulating an internal memo that I would say has become somewhat infamous. So, James, let's start with a bit of discussion about you. Tell us who you are, about your background, and about what you were doing at Google.
Yeah, so I was actually just, I'm really interested in science and psychology and stuff. And then I really liked puzzles, and that's how I got into Google, actually. I did one of their coding competitions. They just recruited me out of that. And so at Google, I was mostly working on search and image and video search in particular.
And so tell us about your educational background a bit.
Yeah, so I just did a random science and math in undergrad, and I ended up with a degree. I didn't really know what I was going to do, so I started doing research at MIT, and then I went to systems biology at Harvard. I initially wanted to work with Martin Novak. He's really great in evolution and game theory, but then I started working on other things.
So tell us a bit about systems biology. What is that exactly, and what kind of research were you doing at MIT?
Yeah, so systems biology has many different meanings, but it's generally just mathematical biology. and I guess seeing biological systems as a whole rather than just individual molecules. And so I like looking at populations, and so my interest in evolution.
So why did that make you a viable candidate at Google, do you think?
I think they just saw a smart guy that could code.
Fair enough. Now you've been there 3 years, is that correct? But also as an intern before that?
Yeah, so about 4 years total.
And so, how would you say you performed as an employee? Have people been happy with you, or have you been in trouble?
Yeah.
Or?
No, I got promoted twice. My last review was the highest possible, superb, which is the top few percentile. So it definitely wasn't based on performance that they fired me.
And have you enjoyed working at Google? Has it been a good experience?
Yeah, I mean, I love Google. That's the horrible part. Like, I've always been the biggest Google fanboy. I've never had an iPhone. I've always tried to convince my friends to use Android and all these different things. And yeah, I mean, this just puts a sour taste in my mouth.
Okay, so let's bring it together. Good education. You're interested in things that Google would be interested in. You're a good coder. You've worked with them for a number of years and done an excellent job, and you're pretty pro-Google. That's basically the background.
Yeah.
Okay, now, last week,
enough waiting around, let's get out there!
Which has attracted a tremendous amount of attention. And in that memo, you made a number of claims, and the claims were, and please correct me if I've got this, if I'm not summarizing this properly. You were attempting to describe reasons why why a lack of gender parity might exist within Google, for example, within engineering, or broadly, and also in occupations.
Yeah.
Laid out very elaborated documents.
This is my jam.
As I can tell,
let's up the tempo.
Are well supported by the relevant psychological science, and I think what I'll do is put in the reference so people can decide for themselves. About gender differences in general, but I'll try to get the highlights of this document. So, why do you think it's
gonna make you feel better?
Yeah, so about a month and a half ago, I went to one of our diversity summits, all of it unrecorded and super secret, and they told me a lot of things that I thought just were not right.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, they were telling us about a lot of these potentially illegal practices that they've been doing to try to increase diversity. And
what kind of practices?
Well, basically treating people differently based on what their race or gender are. Yeah, basically. Yeah, so most meetings at Google are recorded. Anyone in Google can watch it. We're trying to be really open about everything, except for this. They don't want any paper trail for any of these things.
Well, okay, why?
Because I think it's illegal, and
back in the middle. Oh, this is my jam.
Spike Dragon.
Oh, let's break it. Damn! Raising the volume.
I'm incoming. Meteor strike.
And the beat goes on.
Hanzo, at your service.
Let's get patched up.
Get out of my way.
Helden sterben nicht.
Oh, oh, oh. Time to accelerate.
60 seconds remaining.
I'm in aid.
Pump up the volume.
I need healing.
30 seconds remaining.
You don't need that. Game over. Get back.
I mean, as some of the internal polls showed, there were a large percent of people that agreed with me on the document. And so if everyone got to see this stuff, then they would really bring up some criticism.
Yeah, well, a large number of people in Google and a very large number of well-informed biological scientists, we might also add. So, I mean,
yeah.
I was quite struck by your document, given that it would have been a decent document for a well-informed psychologist, research psychologist to write. But you're somewhat of an outsider. But you got the highlights accurate as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, so you went to this diversity meeting, and you weren't happy with the sorts of things that you were being told, and with the practices. Is that both correct?
Yeah.
And what were you being told?
Well, so there's a lot of ways in which they pressure people to increase the diversity of their team. And, there's no way to do that besides actually choosing someone based on their race or gender, right?
And what do they mean by diversity precisely?
I mean, more women or gender, right?
And what do they mean by diversity precisely?
I mean, more women or underrepresented racial minorities.
Okay. Now, can I jump in?
Yeah.
I would hesitate to say that that's 100% true across 100% of
right.
So the organization that I'm in, I have not personally seen anything that I would deem cross the line. I personally believe that there are a good amount of synergies to be found if you can combine, slightly different ideologies into a room. And that is the thesis that some groups are working towards. Obviously, there's going to be a distribution of how people follow the rules. And it's unfortunate to hear that it could be that some people fall to the wrong side of that distribution. But that certainly would not apply to everybody.
Well, it's certainly also distressing to hear that there is acceptance of the idea that diversity can be mapped onto race and gender, especially with regards to performance, because there's no evidence for that whatsoever. So, okay, so you went to this meeting, and then you decided to write this document. And how long had you been working on it before you released it?
Yeah, so I was doing it throughout my free time. And I just wanted to clarify my thoughts on this, and I really just wanted to be proven wrong, because if what I was saying was right, then something bad is happening. And so, about a month ago, I submitted it to feedback to that program, and I saw that people looked at it, but no one actually said anything.
And what sort of feedback did you submit?
I mean, I basically said what I said in the document, and then I linked to the document itself. And so I actually published this about a month ago. And it was only after it got viral and then leaked to the news that Google started caring.
Okay, so how did it go viral? And do you know, and how was it leaked?
Yeah, so there's a group at Google called Skeptics. And so I was like, okay, maybe they'll be able to prove me wrong in some way. They're skeptical about things, right? I don't know. I was naive, I guess. And so I sent them a message okay, what do you think about this? Is Google in some sort of echo chamber, or am I in an echo chamber? And you know, then it just exploded after that, and you know, our internal, yeah, it was just spread throughout all of Google.
Do you know, was it the skeptics group that started to spread it around?
Yeah, and then there were a lot of upper management that you know, specifically called it out and started saying how harmful it is and how it's unacceptable. This sort of viewpoint is not allowed at Google.
Yeah, what sort of viewpoint exactly? The idea that there are differences between men and women that actually might play a role in the corporate world? That's an opinion that's not acceptable?
Yeah, it seems so.
Well, I mean, you know, understandably, it is these issues are tricky morally and politically. But
yeah.
The thing that was disturbing to me about watching the response to you is that, as far as I can tell, there isn't anything that you said in that paper, first of all, that is in fact biased in a manner that should open you up to the sorts of charges that have been opened up against you, or that violates the scientific literature as it currently stands. So both of those are rather distressing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of misrepresentation by upper management just to silence me, I think.
Yes, and why is that, do you think? Like, why is it that Google couldn't have actually, do you think that Google couldn't have come out and had an intelligent discussion about this instead of, well, first of all, releasing, like I read Danielle Brown's response to you, which I thought was absolutely appalling, ill-informed and appalling. And then they fired you, which seems to be like a really bad PR move, but more importantly, doesn't actually deal with the issues at hand. You know, they're basically saying something like, well, what was their rationale for firing you exactly? What was the excuse that was given?
So the official excuse was that I was perpetuating gender stereotypes.
That you were perpetuating gender stereotypes?
Yeah.
And did they say anything else about your performance or about anything else that you had done?
No. It was, that was the only reason.
And who fired you, technically?
It was my HR representative and my director.
Okay. And do you have any idea on whose orders they were acting, or if this was something that they conjured up themselves, or?
I'm sure it probably went from higher up than that. Because, I mean, this is a huge PR move, so they would need approval from higher ups.
Right, and I think the CEO actually made some comments about the issue today, which I'll probably cut into this video as I edit it. So, yeah, okay, all right. So, the first question is, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. There's a lot of messages that I'm trying to sort through and just trying to figure out what I should do now, but...
Yeah, you've been given some interesting job offers as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I've gotten a surprising amount of support. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suspect, in fact, I'm virtually certain that you have a majority viewpoint. It's just that the people who hold the alternative perspective, which are the radical social constructionist types who insist that everything is a consequence of socialization, they're a little bit more organized politically, but they're clearly wrong scientifically. They're wrong factually. They're wrong ethically, for that matter. So you probably have more support than you think, and it'll be very interesting to see how that turns out. So what do you think about having written this? I mean, now your life is going to be turned upside down, and for quite a while, I suspect. I mean, so you put yourself out on the line doing this. So what do you think about that?
It definitely sucks, but I mean, at least I was proven right, you know?
And what do you mean by proven right?
Well, just that the whole culture just tries to silence any dissenting view. And that we really need some more objective way of looking at these things.
Yeah, well, I felt the same way when the University of Toronto decided to, you know, attempt to shut me down after I made my videos. I thought, well, that just proves my point.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I made the videos saying, well, I don't like the climate that's developing. It's making it very difficult to have conversations about certain things. And your example is even more egregious, I think, because, you know, I at least objected to a piece of legislation that in principle would have been of benefit to an identifiable group, let's say the transgender group. I don't believe it is of any benefit to them, but you could make a case that it was. But all you did, as far as I can tell, is review the modern personality literature and the literature on individual differences relating to men and women and other groups. And there's actually not very much opinion in your piece at all. So what that means is that it is not possible to actually have a discussion about the scientific literature on these issues without putting yourself at risk. And that's a hell of a thing for an engineer, because, I mean, engineers rely on the facts, as far as I can tell. And one of the things I like about engineers is that they tend to stick fairly closely to the facts. They're not a very political group, you know, generally speaking. They're much more practical.
I need healing.
Yeah, I don't know how they can expect to silence so many engineers and intelligent people and just deny science like this.
Yeah, well, the question too is, what are your supporters within Google going to do? Because, you know, I would say you're a great warning, man, because you showed what happened. You showed exactly what happens if you have enough, I don't know what you'd call it, curiosity and courage, I suppose, but mostly curiosity, to lay out what you think for discussion. I mean, even when you opened this conversation, you said that, you know, you weren't jumping up and down and insisting you were right. You were trying to lay out what you understood from doing a fair bit of reading, and make the case that these facts, the facts about the differences between men and women and employment choice and payment and all that, aren't being discussed, and they're not being discussed. I mean, we know, for example, and I'll put this citation in the description, it's been very difficult for the Swedes, for example, to flatten out the gender distribution for engineers in Sweden and in the Scandinavian countries in general, despite their advanced social engineering, let's call it. And they also can't get male nurses. You know, I think it's 4 out of 5 nurses in Scandinavia, if I remember correctly, are female, and the reverse number are engineers are male. And, you know, that seems to be associated with this quite well-founded scientific observation that women tilt towards interest in people and men tilt towards interest in things, and that's associated with testosterone exposure in utero. This is solid science, you know, and it isn't anybody beating an ideological drum, because most of the people, I would say that most of the people who are publishing this would have been even happier had it turned out the other way. You know, the findings actually run contrary to their biases, because academia is generally full of people whose biases are left. And now and then, you know, scientific findings emerge to dispute an ideological proposition. That was certainly the case with the role of biology versus society in establishing gender differences. So the science is very credible. It doesn't mean it's completely beyond dispute, but that's not the point either, because your survey was actually a pretty decent survey of the current state of affairs with regards to individual differences. That doesn't mean it's right. So, okay, so what does your family think about all this?
Yeah, they definitely support me, but they don't really know what I should do from here. They don't want me to, you know, just go to a ton of news corporations and do all these interviews and stuff. And because they just want to twist whatever I say towards their agenda too. It's not really clear what I should be doing.
Yeah, well, there's certainly no shortage of people that want to talk to you. I mean, I've been contacted by 4 or 5 journalists who would like to speak with you. We can talk about that afterwards. I can let you know who they are. But yeah, well, you've got a conundrum on your hands. You know, I mean, you're a very straightforward person, and you're obviously not grinding any axe, at least not in any obvious way. So my suspicions are that talking to the right people could be of substantial use to you, but I guess it also depends on what it is that you want. I mean, and that's something we could talk about. Now, you've rattled up the cages of a fair number of people and a fairly large organization. interestingly enough, just on the heels of Google and YouTube's announcement about their new free speech restrictions on YouTube, you know, and their incorporation of NGOs into that censorship process. So it's been quite a week for Google, I would say. So you've opened up this can of worms. What is it? So imagine if you're looking 6 months down the road, say, and things happened that were good because of what you did. What is it that you would like to have happen?
At the very least, I want, because I do still care about Google, I want some conversation to be had, and for the ideologues to not just have their way. But yeah, I still don't have a clear vision on how exactly this will happen.
Yeah, well,
how this can spread farther than just Google.
Well, I mean, you'd spread it farther than just Google, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would say my experience is with the press is that the first thing that will happen is that you'll get jumped on by people who call you the sorts of epithets that would be appropriate if you were a bad guy and you should just shut up and go away. Okay,
Yeah.
That's already happened. But I think you're going to get through that real quick, because I went through your writings, which are not a screed, by the way, and are certainly not an anti-diversity screed. I went through your writings, and I can't see anything there that identifies you as the sort of person that can be easily and permanently tarred with a hateful epithet. But, you know, it's logical for the public, let's say, including the media, to jump on someone like you when they blow a whistle, because the first thing that you might presume if someone's causing trouble is that there's something wrong with them. And so then you have to sort of beat them a while with the idea that there's something wrong with them to see what happens. And so the first thing is you have to withstand that, but there don't seem to be any smoking pistols in your background. So, for example, you were an ideal Google employee. Well, that protects you a lot. And you don't have a history of any sort of troublemaking, and you have a solid educational background, and you're clearly a reasonable person. And so the first thing is just to steel yourself to get through that. And then what will happen, I think, if you do talk to media organizations, and especially if you talk to them the way that you're talking to me, which is extraordinarily calm and composed, then you're going to reveal yourself even more as a reasonable person. And the press overall will start to shift behind you. And I think the reason for that is, one thing you got to remember about the press is that when push comes to shove, they're actually rather in favor of free speech.
Yeah.
Given that without it they would be dead. So I don't think that you have to worry about being exploited and twisted by media sources. I actually think that it might be to your advantage to talk to people. You know, you can figure out who those people are, but you're just not the kind of person that can be easily transformed into a villain. And the more that you can demonstrate that, the better it might be, you know, for the cause that you're engaged in, but also for yourself.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about this emotionally? You must be in a bit of a state of shock, I would think.
Yeah, it's been a stressful week, for sure. But I'm not feeling too negative about it yet. It hasn't fully hit me, I don't think.
Yeah, well, it won't, because God only knows what's going to happen to you over the next few weeks, right? It's going to be a real roller coaster. And you know, the other thing that you might consider is that it's possible that this will turn out extraordinarily positive for you. You know, it's going to be a rough ride, but to the degree that you were accurate in your observations, then, you know, it's not that easy for the opponents of truth to have a battle with truth. It's not easy to have a battle with reality, you know, you tend to lose. So, can I just go over some of the things that you said so that we can discuss them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take a look here. So, you started with a pretty good, solid statement, I would say. Google's political bias has equated the freedom from offense with psychological safety, but shaming into silence is the antithesis of psychological safety. Well, that seems even more relevant now in your situation.
Yeah.
The silencing has created an ideological echo chamber where some ideas are too sacred to be honestly discussed. Well, we can check that one off too, right? Firing certainly seems to indicate that was the case. The lack of discussion fosters the most extreme and authoritarian elements of this ideology. Some of the extreme is all disparities in representation are due to oppression. That's a good one, right? That's a univariate hypothesis. It's very, very simple-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And then the authoritarian element you defined as the idea we should discriminate to correct for this oppression. Great. And then you make a claim. This difference in distributions of traits between men and women may, in part, explain why we don't have 50% representation of women in tech and leadership. Discrimination to reach equal representation is unfair, divisive, and bad for business. Okay, so that's your thesis, and then you go along and try to justify it. So the first thing you do is talk about left-wing versus right-wing biases, and I should point out that you don't concentrate on the left biases or on the right biases. You're completely even-handed with regards to laying out the pros and cons. So the left is compassion for the weak, disparities are due to injustices, humans are inherently cooperative, change is good / unstable, open and idealistic. Fair enough, man. You're dead on with regards to the relevant psychological literature, where we see that political correctness is motivated by agreeableness and that liberalism is fundamentally predicted by openness. And the right biases, respect for authority, disparities are natural and just, humans are inherently competitive, change is dangerous, stable, that would be high conscientiousness and low openness, and they're closed rather than open, and pragmatic rather than idealist. Yeah, well, I don't think any reasonable person could read that column and say that you were coming down hard on the side of either part of the political spectrum.
Yeah. Dr. Peterson, can I jump in with a question? It appears from my interactions with many people that they are projecting words that were not written onto the paper. And would you be able to elaborate on the schemas that people develop and how they classify information in their minds? Because this is very much how stereotypes form, I would think, is by kind of just grouping a bunch of disparate but semi-related people or things together and then projecting an idea that may or may not pertain to that.
Yeah, well, it's a low resolution thought issue. I mean, what's happened to James is that he put up his hand and said, wait a second, I don't agree with the diversity ideology, and he was immediately classified essentially as a misogynist and bigot. And that's the simplest thing to do, right? Because misogynists and bigots will hold viewpoints that are anti-female and racist. And so it's a lot easier just to paint someone with a broad brush, especially if they're violating the tenets of your implicit temperament, let's say, than it is to dive into the details where real thought occurs. And I think one of the sins that James committed was that he actually dared to make this about details rather than about vague, hand-waving ideology. That's very annoying to people who don't want to think, because in order to analyze his claims, you'd have to go through, well, let's say 20 or 30 scientific papers and actually understand what they mean. And that's very annoying, especially if you're pursuing a given agenda. So, okay, so then you say neither side is 100% correct, and both viewpoints are necessary for a functioning society, or in this case, company. Yeah, well, I think the data is solid there too. I mean, our research has indicated that open people who are primarily liberals start companies, and the more closed people, the conservatives, the traditionalists, are good at running them. They're better at being managers and administrators, and that's associated with high conscientiousness. So you've got it right there. A company too far to the right may be too slow to react, overly hierarchical and untrusted. And a company too far to the left will over-diversify its interests, overly trust its employees and competitors, and change perhaps too rapidly. Yeah, great, fine, perfect, nicely balanced as far as I can tell. Only facts and reasons can shed light on these biases. But when it comes to diversity and inclusion, Google's left bias has created a politically correct monoculture that maintains its hold by shaming dissenters into silence. Well, that certainly seems to be the case.
Yeah.
Okay, this silence removes any checks against encroaching extremist and authoritarian policies. All right. At Google, we're regularly told that implicit, unconscious, and explicit biases are holding women back in tech and leadership. Of course, men and women experience bias, tech, and the workplace differently, and we should be cognizant of that, but it's far from the whole story. On average, men and women biologically differ in many ways. These
Group
aren't
up,
just
guys.
socially
Don't go alone.
constructed, because
Group
they're
up, group
universal
up.
across cultures, clear biological causes and links to prenatal testosterone. Biological males castrated at birth and raised as females often still identify and act like males. The underlying traits are highly heritable, and they're exactly what we would predict from an evolutionary psychology perspective. Note, I'm not saying that all men differ from women in the following ways, or that these differences are just. And then you put in a nice chart indicating that the amount of overlap between men and women per trait is greater than the amount of difference. Right, and so you state that directly, and that's perfect. That's a very good way of defending your thesis and also of not overstating the case. Then you do a nice job of also graphically indicating what happens if the distribution is ignored and people are just treated as if they're unipolar representatives of a given group, which is kind of what the people who are predicating the push for diversity on gender and race are assuming, right?
Yeah.
Which is really so funny because it's really a biologically essentialist argument.
Okay, we have 3 attack ultis. Let's go.
Than the argument that you're making, which is that men and women and the members of different races are so different that in order for a full diversity of viewpoint to be achieved, you have to pull in people by race and gender, which implicitly states that the differences are so great that the distributions don't overlap.
Yeah.
Right? You couldn't make a more racist and misogynist statement than that. And it's also technically wrong because men and women are more alike than they are different. Maybe if you summed up all the differences, you could absolutely differentiate between them. You know, in all likelihood you could, but some of those differences are clearly irrelevant to the workplace.
Yeah.
Okay, then you go through the personality difference literature, and you're exactly right on that. I see that the CEO took you to task for using the word neuroticism. However, that is the technical term in the personality literature, and there are historical reasons for that. A better word might be negative emotion, but it's clearly the case that women are higher in negative emotion than men, and that means that they are, on average, less tolerant of uncertainty and stress. They suffer more psychologically for the equivalent levels of uncertainty and stress, and that is also why cross-culturally women have more depressive disorders and anxiety disorders. And the research on that is rock solid, rock solid. Men have their own problems, right? They're more likely to be antisocial. They're much more likely to be imprisoned. They're more likely to have learning disabilities. So it's stating that there are differences in the rates of certain kinds of psychopathologies doesn't put either gender into a position of relative inferiority. So, and then you quote research that suggests that greater nation-level gender equality leads to psychological dissimilarity in men and women's personality traits. Absolutely. That's what the Scandinavian studies indicate. There's been a number of them, and they're very large studies.
Get on site,
so
get on site.
Right. What the researchers demonstrated was that as countries move to flatten out the socioeconomic playing field and remove discrimination, the differences between men and women, or many of the differences between men and women, maximize instead of minimizing. And in Scandinavia, you really see maximization of the difference in men and women with regards to interest in people versus interest in things. A major issue. Men's higher drive for status. Yeah, well, we know that women are hypergamous and that they choose.
Don't chase, stay on site, defend the site. Get back, get back.
Well documented cross-culturally. And also just rational, because women have to make themselves dependent when they are pregnant and when they have infants, and it makes perfect sense for them to seek out the most competent person they can manage, the most competent and generous person they can manage in order to help them bear the burden. So no dispute there. At least, no, you're not diverting from the central tenets of evolutionary psychology and biology. People will dispute those findings, but you're not conjuring this out of thin air. There's a nice solid scientific literature behind me. So, and you know, it's also very interesting to look at the U.S. Labor stats on gender differences in occupations, you know, because it's so funny to watch the radical feminists only go after the high status occupations.
Yeah.
It's like 100% of bricklayers are men. We don't hear that being complained about. And of course, men occupy most of the outside jobs. They move more and they do more of the dangerous jobs as well. So these are all factors that are relevant, but completely undiscussed as far as I can tell by the sort of ideological types that have been going after you. So women are on average more cooperative, yeah, especially with members of their in-group. Whether they're more cooperative with members of their out-group is a different story, right? Because agreeable people are in-group oriented and very hard on out-group members, which I think is partly why the PC types are so hard on their enemies, because, you know, they regard them as predators on infants, essentially, something like that. Women on average are more prone to anxiety. Yes, that's true. Women on average look for more work-life balance. That seems to be the case. I don't know if the literature on that is as tight, you know, but it's certainly the case that law firms, for example, have a hell of a time keeping their women in partnership positions, because most of them don't want to work the 60-hour work weeks, 60 to 80-hour work weeks that are necessary to performance at that extremely high level.
Reaper on site.
Dr. Peterson, for anybody who might be new listening in, you mentioned that a lot of women might not be, you know, interested in working those, you know, 60 to 80-hour work weeks. Do you think it would make sense to expand upon that just a little bit? I know you talked through hypergamy, but you've also mentioned the thing about why would anybody want to do that, no matter what their gender is.
We got to get the mystery right here. The mystery isn't why there are a bunch of people who are low status, because almost everyone's low status, comparatively speaking, right? Men and women alike. It's a small minority of people who are high status on any dimension, and they tend to be hyper successful, and they tend to be men. So you see this in scientific publishing, for example. So the median professor, male, publishes as much as the median professor, female. But the vast majority of the high publishing people are males. And that seems to be because there are a small percentage of males who are very status seeking, very focused, very energetic, and very much prone to put their career first. And part of the theory for why that is that some men are, that the evolutionary and sexual trade-off for men with regards to high status is much higher than it is for women. So there's good documentation, and I can find these references too, that the number of sexual partners or opportunities that a man has in the previous year is tightly associated with his socioeconomic status, whereas the number of partners or opportunities for partnering that a woman has is negatively correlated with her status. And that might be partly because high status women who are looking for even higher status men price themselves out of the mating market. And there's actually pretty good documentation of that as well. So you're fine. You're fine with all of that. The harm of Google's biases. To achieve a more equal gender and race representation, Google has created several
Reaper on the left.
Programs mentoring in classes only for people with a certain gender or race, a high priority queue and special treatment for diversity candidates, hiring practices which can effectively lower the bar for diversity candidates by decreasing the false.
Stay together, guys.
Yeah, that's
stop going solo. Reaper on the left. Reaper on the left.
Or you don't. The problem is that if the standards produce a non-equitable outcome, then what happens is people criticize the standards, and that would be fine if the standards bore no relationship to the job. But the problem is that if you have your hiring practices set up halfway intelligently, and it's never perfect, you're actually hiring for attributes that would make job effectiveness much more likely.
Yeah.
So how did you come across all this information?
Part of it was through that diversity summit, and just looking through all the stuff that we have online or through our internal sites.
Yeah, so you've been doing a fair bit of literature review.
Yeah.
Yeah. These practices are based on false assumptions generated by our biases and can actually increase race and gender tensions. Yeah, well, the whole unconscious bias thing is a great example of that. Is like, first of all, those tests, the implicit association test, are nowhere near reliable or valid enough, so nowhere near the quality necessary to diagnose anyone as having a unconscious bias. Second, the data relating those so-called unconscious biases to actual behavior is weak. Third, there's no evidence whatsoever that anti-unconscious bias training programs have any positive effect whatsoever, and some that they have negative effect. Partly because people don't like to be called racists and marched off to forced re-education training. So, suggestions: demoralize diversity. Yeah, that would be good. And start to define it more appropriately, right?
Yeah.
And to start having a real conversation about what proper hiring practices should be, which should be objective standards, universally applied, without bias. Because that's the best we can do. That's still going to introduce some non-equal outcomes.
Get back,
but of course, hiring practices are designed to do that. For example, they're clearly designed to reward more intelligent people. And given that IQ is highly heritable, that's actually a real problem.
Yeah, definitely.
And we definitely set up hiring practices to reward conscientious people.
Oh my fucking god.
And what about propensity to negative emotion? It seems to me that screening for stress tolerance is a reasonable thing to do in high-stress jobs, unless you want to put the person in a position where they're likely to collapse. To be miserable, I don't see any utility in that.
Dr. Peterson, I had a question actually relating to that. From an employment standpoint, is there an optimum sensitivity to stress that you've seen from the most economically productive employees? By that I mean, I feel like there's a middle ground between people who are laid back versus people who are probably overstimulated by external factors that make them self-conscious. And these people, I think, at least at the lower mid levels of many companies, actually have a little bit more anxiety that powers their ascension through the dominance hierarchy.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky issue because you're probably the sort of negative emotion that might be useful in motivating you is probably more associated with conscientiousness than with neuroticism. Like, neuroticism seems to be linked pretty tightly to anxiety and emotional pain, frustration, disappointment, grief. Those all sort of fit into those categories. Whereas the negative emotion, perhaps, that's associated with conscientiousness and industriousness in particular, seems to be more something like self-contempt and disgust. And so conscientious people are made uncomfortable by their lack of productive effort. But that doesn't seem to be associated with trait neuroticism. It's a different thing. So that's partly why it's so necessary to get the psychometrics right, and to get the measurement right. So the best hiring screeners are like a Big 5 personality test, roughly speaking, especially weighted towards conscientiousness, and for complex jobs, a general cognitive ability test. Although there's some question about the legality of those in the current political situation. So all alienating conservatives is both non-inclusive and generally bad business because conservatives tend to be higher in conscientiousness, which is required for much of the drudgery and maintenance work characteristic of a mature company. Yes, absolutely. So now here's what you suggest. Confront Google's biases. Well, you've done that, and you've seen how that went. I would start by breaking down Googleist scores by political orientation and personality to give a fuller picture into how our biases are affecting our culture. That's a fine idea. Stop restricting programs and classes to certain genders or races. Yes, well, obviously. Have an open and honest discussion about the costs and benefits of our diversity programs. Well, I guess that's what we're trying to do right now. Discriminating just to increase the representation of women in tech is as misguided and biased as mandating increases for women's representation in homeless, work-related and violent deaths, prisons and school dropouts. Yes, it's the same thing. And it's the same issue as the bricklayer issue as well. And what are you going to do? You're going to chase the nurses out of, the women out of nursing and medicine and psychology and social work and university undergraduate programs where they're radically overrepresented? So what about Jews? You're going to get rid of them too? because they're overrepresented in most complex occupations, and Asians as well. So, or you're only going to do this in very limited circumstances. You're going to figure out some way to put a limit on that, are you? Seems very unlikely.
I almost wonder what the ADL is, will be thinking six months from now or 12 months from now, given the high number of, at least in the United States, Ashkenazi Jews in leadership positions at companies that are advocating for less of themselves or less people who are in the bucket that they're in.
Yeah, well, as long as the discussion centers on the overrepresentation of white men, people seem to have no problem. But you start to break that down a little bit, and because Jewish white men are particularly overrepresented, so what, are going to make an issue out of that? Really? We're going to do that? So, and Asians are already having a harder time getting into universities. So, and that's well documented. So, and that's a terrible thing, partly because of the cost to the individuals involved, but also the cost to society, because it means that we're not taking the people who are most competent and allowing them to expand their education to the greatest degree possible. And because there aren't that, like, smart, competent people are actually rather rare, and it's to society's advantage to exploit the hell out of them and, pay them well for that. But it's not like they're of no benefit. And everyone knows that when they try to hire someone competent. De-emphasize empathy. Yes. Empathy is a good ethic for small family units and a terrible ethic to run a company by. It looks like conscientiousness is the right ethic to run a company by. And I think conscientiousness, we don't have good animal models for conscientiousness, but I think conscientiousness probably evolved so that human beings could operate in groups that were larger than just kin-sized, Because equity makes sense at a kin level. Every mother wants her children to have a good outcome in life and wants resources distributed equally between them. So it's not like it's something that... Prioritize intention. Our focus on microaggressions, etc., and other unintentional transgressions increases our sensitivity. You do a nice job of criticizing that. I read Daryl Wing Sue's book on microaggression. It's an appalling load of tripe, to put it bluntly. And I believe Scott Lilienfeld, who's a very good psychologist, has recently published a paper shredding the construct validity of the concept of microaggression. So it's a non-valid construct, right from the bottom up. It's purely ideological in nature. It's also one of those constructs that allows anyone who's offended to weaponize discourse around it. So reconsider making unconscious training, bias training, mandatory for promotion committees. Yeah, that should be reconsidered. It should be stopped. There's no scientific basis whatsoever for proceeding with that operation. So, great. Well, it's a pretty straightforward document as far as I'm concerned, and I've gone through it with a fairly fine-tooth comb as a behavioral scientist, and I would like to state for the record that I believe that what you said in there, if not accurate, was at least representative of the current state of art among well-trained, psychometrically informed psychologists who are experts in the field of individual difference. So, congratulations. Too bad you had to pay such a price for it. All right, well, thank you very much for the conversation. One other question. Why did you agree to talk to me?
I'm a huge fan, so... And well, I know that you went through a similar thing.
Been any influence on this? I mean, you're going to pay a... Actually, I'm not. Sorry. I'd like to say I was sorry, but I'm not. I'm actually really pleased. I do think that you're going to pay a big price for this, but that the net consequence will be very positive. And I think you did an excellent job on this document. I think you were very careful. I think the fact that you're being labeled with epithets and that you were fired is absolutely reprehensible. It's clear to me that you're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and that you're not any of the things that people would like to think you are, so that they don't have to bloody well think about what it is that you said and did. So, congratulations to you, man. Courageous people are rare, and you put yourself on the line, and I really learned that in the last year. So I would say keep your head up, assume that this is going to work out. I wouldn't hide from the press, because I think the press is actually, you're the right kind of person for the press to be something for you to use. You know, you're well spoken, you're quiet, you're convincing, you're rational. You're obviously, at least you come across as a decent guy very, very rapidly. There's no reason, I would say there's no reason not to let people see who you are, because I think that would improve your credibility and make your message even more powerful. So you think about that. I mean, you have every right to defend your privacy, you know, but
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I don't think that you have any reason to be afraid of the press. I would say a couple of things when you're talking to the press. Don't apologize. Don't tell people what you're not. Don't tell them that you're not a bigot and that you're not a misogynist. That's a technical error. And stick to your damn guns, you know, as quietly and forthrightly as you can. And man, you're going to come out on top of this, because you're on the side of the right, as far as I'm concerned.
Symmetra, top center.
That's like gang stuff. Chicken food? Like a big.
That's like it.
Play of the game.
Nerf this!
And that's normal. We could, you know, hang out at the rink sometime. Co-momming with another handle here. Okay, so you're looking at probably a lesbian on top of the trans queer as fuck man-woman. Surprising that they don't have. James's problem was why he felt like his views were not welcome in this community. Okay, obviously he was a bigot, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a life hack. If you are a white male and you're looking for a job in Silicon Valley, I think that we figured out how to game the system. Just say that you're a trans lesbian and bam, Google gets to meet its diversity quota and you get to keep your job. For the Rebel.media, I'm Faith Goldie. Pronouns she, her. Obviously he was a bigot, but polyamorous part, but the queer autistic trans lesbian. First of all, queer and lesbian, aren't they sort of the same thing? Maybe not, okay, pardon my ignorance here, but a trans lesbian? So does that mean that you were a man that was into chicks and then became a woman and you're now still into chicks? So basically you just mutilated yourself and your sexual orientations remain the same. Okay. All right, I don't understand what James's problem was, why he felt like his views were not welcome. She seems actually the most normal out of all of them. I think myself and Michelle, 1928-37, could possibly get along. Maybe sit together at lunch or something like that at Google HQ, share a beer, talk about our pronouns. All right, DM Brown 1, coming for you, buddy. Don't assume it's a buddy, though. Could be a guy. Could be a pal. Danielle. Danielle, it's a girl. Okay, that's why you don't assume, friends. These rules exist for a reason. By day, driving diversity and inclusion in tech, Google, outside of work, traveling the world, cooking, running, learning, never sitting still. Views are my own. So she is all about diversity and inclusion, and yet her tweets are protected. Just saying, there seems to be a little bit of a cognitive dissonance going on over there. Gotta circle that square. All right, and finally, I won't tease any more of these precious employees who, of course, are still receiving salaries, unlike one James Damore. Jess Muskin. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm just gonna read, I'm not gonna judge the picture. Polyamorous, queer, autistic, trans lesbian. I'm also a computer witch. SWE at Google. Views are not those of her employer. And generally a huge gay nerd. She, her. I'm guessing that those are her pronouns. Okay, I have a couple of questions. Not the polyamorous part, but the queer, autistic, trans, lesbian. First of all, queer and lesbian, aren't they sort of the same thing? Maybe not, okay, pardon my ignorance here, but a trans lesbian? So does that mean that you were a man that was into chicks and then became a woman by, and you're now still into chicks, so basically you just mutilated yourself and your sexual orientations remain the same. Okay. All right, I don't understand what James's problem was, why he felt like his views were not welcome in this community. Okay, obviously he was a bigot, but I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a life hack. If you are a white male and you're looking for a job in Silicon Valley, I think that we figured out how to game the system. Just say that you're a trans lesbian and bam, Google gets to meet its diversity quota and you get to keep your job. For the Rebel.media, I'm Faith Goldie. Pronouns, she, her. YouTube's trying to censor videos just like this one. If you want to help us build an app so we can get away from our YouTube overlords, visit theycan'tstopus.com.
I've seen this before.
Okay, so we got some horror elements going on.
What is this?
Ignore that.
Yikes.
Ignore that. It will end.
What?
Now, our first question, 1 + 1.
Equals 2.
Yes.
2.
Incorrect. Yes.
Multiculturalism.
Well done, Simon.
What the f?
Yes.
Multiculturalism.
Well
What?
done, Simon.
What?
Incorrect. Yes.
Multiculturalism.
Well done, Simon.
Uh-oh. Here's the social commentary.
What is 3 × 3?
Okay, so it's not 9.
Yes?
9.
Wrong. Yes, Penelope.
Gender equality.
Very good, Penelope.
Is this a joke?
You
think gender...
Is this a joke?
You think gender equality is a joke?
Ooh,
Is this a
yikes.
maths class? Don't be so racist.
What? You think gender equality is a joke?
No, this is a joke.
Maths class? Don't be so racist. I just asked a question.
We don't ask It's questions. like
Modern education.
Traveling to Dorado. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Hello? Guys, anyone here? Hello, hello. Anyone talk, please? Oh, okay. Don't talk. Okay, I'm trolling right now. Okay.
Oh, I'm trolling. I'm trolling.
Ah.
I'm trolling. I'll trolling. I'll troll for you, fucker. Wait for it. I'll troll for you, fucking cunt.
Oh, you fucking agent. Okay, do you know Saki Saki fucking Hong Kong?
Saki fucking Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, please.
Oh, please. I want to fuck you.
I don't want to fuck you.
Yeah, I want to fuck you.
I don't like your
you're
small
so
dick.
Oh, I have a bigger dick. Don't
You
worry.
have a smaller dick.
Oh, big, large one.
I can't
Not small
see
one.
it.
You have you have a big cunt. Oh yeah.
I can't see your dick, man. You have a small dick,
Yeah.
man.
You see rocket, don't dick.
You see a rocket, don't
Yeah. Oh, please kiss my dick. Please, can you?
Yeah, alright.
Ah, shut the fuck up, Genji. You don't have one. You have a sword, not dick.
Sword.
Okay.
I foresee great things for you.
Guys, let's do this, guys. I want to fuck Anna, fucking Egyptian girls. Guys, we need more communication, guys. Hello.
Shut the fuck up, you Muslim cunt. Fuck off.
I'm Muslim. I'm not Muslim. I'm Jewish, man.
कितना अच्छा लगता है ना लोग racist. Everyone's a fucking racist nowadays, bro.
Time to roll up my sleeves.
Nanobot is charging. My ultimate is charging.
I have big plans.
Hello, guys. Please, I have all the gold. I have one in mission and one objective kill. I see, guys. We want to win. Hello, it's me. Guys, hello. Oh, Genji, good job.
Wow, nice TV.
Let's get this done.
Thank you.
Hello, this will help.
Fire at will. Огонь по готовности.
They have Romitry, guys. Torbjorn, you do nothing, man. You're trolling. I report you, okay? Don't be upset.
Back to the drawing board. Armor here.
Soldier 76 reporting for duty.
Not enough scrap. I have big plans for you.
Thank you, kindly.
Turret's under fire. I'll fix you. I'm back.
Nanoboost administered.
On my way. Ready to work. Need more scrap. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! Armor here!
Watch your fly.
Behind you.
Armor over here! Such potential! Take my turret!
Walk it off.
Back in the fight.
Complete. Score 0-3. Switching sides. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
GG, guys.
Build them up, break them down.
It does. My brother Mandana gave much to improve their lives, but it was not to be. Consider only victory. Make defeat an impossibility in your mind.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
It is time to act.
Mada Mada!
Attack commencing.
Get this!
Escort the payload.
Let's get started. Show them what you can do. Enemy turrets destroyed.
Enemy turret destroyed.
roll up my sleeves.
Get over here, heal.
Need more scrap.
Enemy turret here.
Rest in peace. Armor up. They can always use more. Shots, get this move.
Enemy turret ahead. Thank you.
Let's hear those guns.
Enemy turret destroyed.
I found the enemy.
I'm out of scrap. I foresee great things for you. Somewhere.
Drop the beat.
Step right Back to the drawing board.
Enemy turret ahead.
Armor here. This will come in. I foresee great things for you.
Enemy turret destroyed.
Moving the payload. You have my
Helden sterben nicht.
turret down.
Heroes never die.
Back in the fight.
Enemy turret on the left!
Enemy turret destroyed.
Armor over.
I am moving the payload.
Come here. Armor up. Armor, come get it. Let's get started. Turret under fire.
My ultimate is charging.
Come get your armor. Moving the payload.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My ultimate thought I made it. Come in handy.
Drop the beat.
Come get it. Behind you. Get this move. There's work to be done.
Thanks. My ultimate is charging. Very well.
Come get your armor.
The payload moves. We must keep it.
Can always use more.
Thank you.
Armor on.
Helden sterben nicht. Огонь по готовности.
I'm back. Need more scrap. Lights are on! My ultimate is charged! Attack him!
Stay down. Your visor activated.
안녕. Hi. 안녕. 하야.
I am unstoppable!
60 seconds
Meteor strike!
Time to read my DCS.
complete. Score 3-3. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
I want to know what the Americans are up to.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
Time to restore your family's empire.
But at what cost?
Escort the payload.
Enemy sighted. Keep the payload in motion.
Bedtime.
The name's McCree.
30 seconds remaining.
Bad guys. Heads up.
10 seconds.
Achieve victory at all costs.
Hold up now.
This is going to hurt.
No one can hide from my sight.
All systems checked out.
Complete. Score 3-3. Switching sides. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Get ready to move.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.